This sort of just came across my plate of a video that I saw on social media of somebody breaking something inside of a room. And I'm not 100% sure why, even to this day, why it clicked in my head like it did. It just, when I saw it, I thought this is it.
You have built the world's largest race room company, over 100 franchises and counting.
I mean, there was a point where I was working 80 to 100 hours a week. I had no money and I was losing money.
What's probably the dumbest or the weirdest mistake that you made early on in your journey?
I think that probably.
So, Stephen, before I introduce you, I want you to just tell everyone listening, and for me as well, who exactly is Stephen Shortino in your own words?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'd probably call myself pretty driven, ambitious entrepreneur, and that haven't always been like this, but over the past years of growing my business, I've definitely come to enjoy being a business owner and growing my company. So that's what the majority of my time is spent doing right now, and I truthfully enjoy it and excited to be here today to just tell you all about it.
That's amazing. I appreciate how humble you're being, but I think it's very important to mention your accomplishments. You have built the world's largest race room company and over 100 franchises and counting. Before all the success, though, before iSMASH even existed, what did life look like for you, before starting Smash Therapy?
Well, I guess it didn't look pretty for any stretch of the imagination. I basically got out of school and uh, wasn't really doing much. I didn't want to go to college. I didn't like school particularly, and I just sort of wanted to do something that was my own, whatever that was. So there was a few different things that I dabbled in. Just seemed like nothing checked all the boxes of being enjoyable, being necessary, making money, and then this sort of just came across my plate of a video that I saw on social media of somebody breaking something inside of a room, and I'm not 100% sure why, even to this day, why it clicked in my head like it did. It just, when I saw it, I thought this is it. This is the idea. This, I don't know why. I didn't even know what boxes I had to check, but this checked a lot of them. And it was at that moment I abandoned most of the other stuff that I was interested in and trying to make work just to embark on trying to get this rage room thing open. And that's ultimately what I did. So to summarize, prior to iSmash, there wasn't a whole lot going on. I don't have a story of failed startups or some other big exit that kind of bridged the gap between then and now. Now it's really just came up from scratch.
I find that really interesting. Was it like a gut feeling, or do you think everything just happened to click? All your ambitions, your desire to, be your own boss. If we had to sort of clear it up a bit more, what do you think it was?
Yeah, so I'm the kind of person I don't like being late to the party per se. In other words, I don't like doing things that everybody else is doing. And most businesses that you would want to start, there's 1,000 other people trying to do it. So when I saw this, and there was maybe 15 or 20 of these in the US at the time, the closest one was 3 hours away. I think just the fact that it was unique really caught my eye. Also, just timing wise, it was a point in my life where I was definitely more motivated and ambitious than I had been previously. And that sort of helped align with opening up that business. So I think that those are really the two biggest things is just the uniqueness and simplicity of it, and also me just being in a place where I was pretty motivated to start my own business and make it work.
Nice. And this was 2017, 2018?
2017 is when the idea first came to me. Not came to me, was shown to me. It was 2017, and then
Okay.
it probably took me 9 or 10 months of when I actually said, let's do this to get the first store open, which was 2018.
All right. And yeah, during those initial stages, those first few months, you know, a lot of people listening in, they're beginner entrepreneurs like me as well. What was the hardest part about the initial part of your entrepreneurship journey? And yeah, what do you think no one really talks about as much as it should be talked about?
Yeah, I think that just the hardest part for me, and I'm sure that other people would probably agree, is basically working for no money with no real clear idea of whether or not this thing that you're putting all of your time and effort and all of your money into is actually even going to work. I think that that was definitely the toughest thing. I mean, there was a point where I was working 80 to 100 hours a week. I had no money
Wow.
and I was losing money. Like I was working all the, like most of the time you work a job, you work 80 hours a week, all this overtime, you make some pretty decent money. Entrepreneurship, there's no guarantees of that paycheck coming. And I mean, even to this day, I could have put in all those hours, all those time, and the business could have not worked. And it would have all been for nothing. So I think that the toughest part for most people is before that success really starts and you're making money, things are clicking, that period of challenge where you're really brute forcing everything, committing a lot of time with uncertainty of whether or not you're actually going to make it happen. So I would say that that was the among other things, the toughest part for me, and probably the toughest part for a lot of entrepreneurs is just getting over that initial hump.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's really important to touch on that. And yeah, on the topic of, the struggles that you faced in your business, I'm just curious to know how did the pandemic affect you in 2020 and 2021?
Yeah, it's kind of weird because COVID, it killed some businesses, but it also propelled some businesses, and it didn't seem
Yeah.
like there was a lot of in between. And fortunately, I seem to have been one of the businesses that got propelled by it. I'm not sure why, but I'll give you a little bit of context. So our operation was in New York at the time. It was the only store
Hmm.
open in 2020, and New York was one of the states that completely shut down. Everything that was not an essential business was mandated to close for about 3.5 to 4 months. So there was a time period, and at that time, nobody really knew when they were going to lift these restrictions. In my
Yeah.
eyes, it was 6 months, maybe it was a year, maybe it was 2 years. So there was just a lot of unknown with that happening. And then once the business, like I remember in New York, they had it in phases. Different types of businesses could open back up to the public. So I knew that it was coming about maybe a month or two in advance. And I was pretty hesitant. I didn't know if people were going to have the money to spend on entertainment. I didn't know if they were going to be willing to go out and do things that were social, where other people were going to be in the building. There was a lot of fear at the time with the pandemic, but I'm not really sure why. Maybe it was just the stress and people being cooped up and a lot of the political environment. But it skyrocketed our business. We were doing about maybe 6 months after we opened back up from the COVID closure, which was 2021, beginning of 2021. I mean, we blew up. Our business exploded, and that's really when things started to click the most, and we started to do incredibly well. So my COVID journey was probably different than a lot of others that had to close and that ultimately it nerfed, it dwarfed their business. we were one of the ones that were able to take advantage of it. So that's my little bit of pandemic story.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like the pandemic built up a lot of stress, and then you guys
Yeah.
definitely filled that market gap. You mentioned there was quite a lot of fear during the pandemic, and I recently came across a statistic which is basically 62% of adults in the US want to be their own boss and want to start their own thing. But of course, it's the fear that holds them back. So, were there any other fears that held you back that you've never really admitted to anyone?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that the biggest thing, and a lot of young people have issues with this, is how are they going to look to their peers, to their family, to everybody that was involved if they fail, because that is the last thing anybody wants. Because at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is the ultimate test of you personally, and whatever happened with your business is why it didn't succeed. It might have completely been out of your control, but in the back of your mind, you're going to perceive it as something that uh, is going to look like your fault. So I think that for young people specifically, the reason why I see that they cannot make that leap is the fear of how they're going to look if they fail. And it's probably one of the number one things that humans try to avoid is looking like a failure to other people. Now, the thing that people don't realize is that others don't really care as much as you think, and that they're probably going to be proud and maybe some even a little bit jealous that you took that risk and took that leap for entrepreneurship. And the other thing that I've seen is I've seen people fail throughout the years and things don't work and they move on to the next thing. And once that next thing works, people don't really care about their failures. I mean, there's a lot of examples of famous people who had catastrophic failures, things that they tried earlier businesses that didn't work at all. And you don't hear anything about them because they're only known for their successes. I mean, I failed a lot in my business. I've done things that failed horribly, and people could barely even pay attention to those things. They pay attention to what has gone right and what's been successful for us. So again, just to summarize, I think that the fear of failing and how it's going to look to other people, I know it was a fear of mine, and I think it's a huge fear for other people, especially young people that have this sort of insecurity a lot of the time of how they look.
Mm, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that and relate to you on that fear. Now, I want to ask you a different type of question. What's what's probably the dumbest or the weirdest mistake that you made early on in your journey?
I think that probably one of the I think one of, or I would probably say two different things. Number one was personnel. I had absolutely no clue how important it was to have the right people in your business. I mean, there was so many people early on that were trying to take advantage of me, or people that was paying that were nowhere near the standards or to the benefit of my company, and I was just completely naive and almost delusional to the fact that the people in my business, people working in my business, had a direct impact on how the business actually performed. And it probably took me maybe about a year to really reflect and say, man, these people that I have involved. Now I had some good people, but there was some people involved that were just detrimental to the operation. Man, and these people are really hindering my business and holding me back. Whereas now I realize, I mean, the people, all businesses really are people. It's a culmination of humans working towards a similar goal. Whereas back
Yeah.
then, that was not the case. The other thing that really almost never dawned on me was marketing. And I know that that just
Mm,
sounds completely idiotic. Like everybody knows you have to market your business, but it didn't really cross my mind a lot. I just thought that you put up a sign and you post on social media a little bit and people come in the door and you run some specials and some discounts and good things would happen. I didn't realize the whole paid advertising landscape and how crucial that was to success. And that was also something that probably took me around a year to realize that I needed to get my name, my business out there because nobody knew about it. You just had like people don't know what they don't know. And in your little bubble, you think, man, I've been reaching out to all these people and how does everybody not know about me? I've contacted
Yeah.
all the businesses in my industry that I need to sell to, but at the very end of the day, you have not even scratched the surface of the people that could be buying your product. So it really wasn't until I shifted my mindset to we need like marketing is the number one priority that the business didn't take off until that point. I know that both of those sound very gullible, but you have to understand, I was 21 at the time. I had no idea about anything related to entrepreneurship. I didn't even know that you had to have a business bank account. I just thought everything ran through your personal bank account.
Wow.
I didn't even realize that you needed to set up another bank account for your business.
Yeah, I think even though those things sound like really, simple things that we should already know, most of us just underestimate it. Like, I know with marketing, I know a ton of people who've just, put up a website and then just expected to get immediate sales without marketing or anything like that. So yeah, I do think it is very important to touch on those two things.
Yeah, I mean,
So
even look at a business like McDonald's, right? They have a
yeah,
household, a brand name. Anybody sees their sign, they know what it is. They're going to come in the door. They still spend tons of money on advertising. Amazon spends tons of money on advertising. You have to spend money on marketing. If you think that you're just going to get by, again, there are some businesses that do get by. They're home services or something like that, where everything's word of mouth, everything's referral. But the vast majority of businesses, you're just not going to survive if you don't have a marketing strategy.
yeah, very true. All right, so enough about, your losses, your early journey struggles. Let's start talking about the wins, okay? So, you've opened up more than 100 franchises, seen insane success. How old are you, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
Just turned 29 recently.
Oh, wow. All right. So, to get to this level of success, what's one small change that you made that, brought so many or like a huge return on investment that you weren't expecting at all?
Yeah. So just clarification. So we have 100 franchises committed. Most of them are still in the process of opening just because this is all very recent. And our opening timelines are usually like 10 to 12 months. But we have probably
Oh,
30 or
okay.
40 more locations opening this calendar year, 2026. So a lot of development, but it's still it's in progress. It's happening. But
Yeah, still
I think that
impressive.
I think that one of the biggest things that people don't realize is obviously I have not gotten to the point that I have without other people noticing what I had done. Like I've had people that have helped me along the way with capital and knowledge and partnerships, and I was really able to get those people interested and get those people involved because of the way my personality was in business. And I think that one of the number one things that young people can do, or really anybody in entrepreneurship can do, are things that don't even really cost money. And I'll give you some of those things right now, which is number one, being punctual and getting back to people in a timely manner. And I know that sounds like how could that have any impact on anything? But the amount of people that miss emails, that don't call people back, that don't keep their word, they don't keep deliveries, they don't keep deadlines, they take 5 hours to respond to a 30-second inquiry for a project that needs to move forward. I think just really being on top of things and just showing people that you are hungry and you are ambitious is probably one of the number one things that you can do as an entrepreneur because people will notice. And me being somebody now who's always on the lookout for people that are like that, I'm always on notice. Is there anybody in my organization? I don't care if they don't have knowledge, if they don't have skills, I don't even care. I care about, are they ambitious and do they have a work ethic? And if they are, that's somebody that I want in my company. So how that relates back to me is when people came across me, what I was doing, and the way that I carried myself and operated with just the punctuality, the ambition, the speed in which I did things, the urgency, they saw it and they knew right then and there. I don't know anything about this smash room business. I barely even know this kid, but he seems like he's going places because this is characteristics of somebody who is hungry and who wants it. So I would say that that has been one of my biggest things, and even still to this day, my mantra is working incredibly fast, never being the bottleneck. If something's in my court, I push it out to somebody else's court as soon as possible. I don't ever want to be the delay or the person that is waiting on something to happen, because that's where delays occur. So it's kind of cool that that same characteristic that I had years and years ago, I still carry to this day. And anybody who's in business to me will attest to that. Steve gets back quick, and that's also what I expect out of my team. Quick responses, quick action. We work fast. So I know that that was kind of a mouthful, but hopefully helpful.
Yeah, no, that's really important because yeah, as you mentioned, punctuality, being fast and that sort of work ethic really does matter, which is what I've seen after starting multiple entrepreneurs. One interesting debate though is whether entrepreneurs are born or made. So on that topic of, you being someone who works fast, your work ethic is really high, what do you think, or what's your stance on that debate?
Yeah, so I think I'm pretty heavily weighted towards one side, which is definitely, I think that they're all made. I think we all come into this world equal. We all come in with nothing, and it just depends on what we do with our time and our resources available of how we end up. Because I mean, you could have probably asked 100 different people that knew me when I was younger, is this kid going to grow up to be a successful entrepreneur? Almost every single one of them would have said no. So I was definitely be categorized as somebody who is not born an entrepreneur. And I think that they really are all made. They are, and there's a lot of evidence to support that. I mean, even people that are great at sports. I mean, one of the main reasons they got that way is just their determination and their commitment to be good at whatever they were doing and succeed. So I would 100% say that entrepreneurs are made, and that anybody can do it, and it's not something where you need to have this characteristic, that characteristic. Now that being said, I do think that there is some reason to say that not everybody in the way that their current thinking is in their current situation is cut out for entrepreneurship. They're just not, because they're not mentally tough enough to handle it. And I'm not trying to say that to be mean or condescending. It's just, it's weekends, it's stress, it's uncertainty, it's taking a vacation and only thinking about your business. And there's a lot of people that just are not willing to do that. And a W-2 job is going to work much better for them.
100%. Yeah, definitely makes a lot of sense. Not everyone is cut off entrepreneurship yet, but it is definitely a changeable characteristic, is what I'm getting from you.
Yeah, because
So,
again, if it were me at 16, 17, I would have never made it as an entrepreneur. My thinking, my actions, everything was just so flawed. But I think that the coolest thing about entrepreneurship is it almost forces you to grow. I've had to grow as my business has, or else I would have not have succeeded. So my business almost propelled me to grow myself personally if I wanted to succeed, which I think is one of the coolest things about being a business owner is the personal growth that comes alongside the growth of your company.
entrepreneurship is the greatest vehicle for self-improvement. And
Yeah.
yeah, from the outside, let's say if you were to look at iSmash as if you were someone else, what do you think would say, or like, what do you think other people falsely assume made iSmash successful that didn't really play much of a role?
So are you asking from an outside perspective, if I were to see my business, what would I think made it successful? Like not knowing anything, basically.
Yeah, like the incorrect beliefs.
Oh, so kind of some of the misperceptions of
Yeah,
what has made
exactly.
iSmash successful. I mean, that's kind of tough because I people usually ask that question and then we give them the answer and it kind of makes sense. I mean, the obvious thing is that people say that is they got lucky in some way. And
Mm,
yes, there is some luck associated with business, but I think that there's definitely people heavily weight that factor more than they should, that this was luck and circumstance that this happened and not so much the people that were involved. So I would say that that's definitely a misperception, is that there were all of these specific factors and elements that went into iSmash in the original store in Rochester, which made it successful, when that just wasn't the case. And I think a lot of people assume that about companies, is, man, they were just lucky. But the thing is like a lot of it does come down to being at the right place at the right time. And I think
yeah.
we were just poised with the way that I was running the business and the market and everything, just very positioned to grow the way that we did.
Sick. In 2026 and beyond, what are your plans when it comes to scaling iSmash? What's your vision? What do you see to improve? All that type of stuff.
So for 2026, we want to end the year with 40 locations open, which is
Okay.
definitely going to be doable. It might even be more. So we have 10 open right now. So we're hoping to open 30 of them this year. So that's kind of where my sights are set as far as a goal. I also I want to just implement more processes and systems as we scale, to be more efficient and to just try to buy back some more of my time. Because, truth be told, I do work in the business a lot at
Yeah,
the time, and there's a lot that I think can be automated and optimized. And then I think also just leaning into technology more. I think that there are a lot of franchise brands who are somewhat ignoring the technological evolution that's going on right now with AI, particularly, and I want
definitely.
to be one of those brands who is taking full advantage and implementing it for every efficiency possible with my franchisees and my corporate team. So those are probably my goals for 2026 business wise, is efficiency, like optimizing, automating, opening up the 30 locations, and then just leaning more into technology overall.
Yeah, interesting goals. I'm curious to know, what is your sort of planning process or goal setting process?
Yeah, what was the second part? Planning and what?
Your goal setting process.
Gotcha. So I usually break it out into tranches. So on Sunday, I will usually sit down and say, what do I want to get done for this week? And I think that looking at week to week and then more overarching for the year has worked out well for me. So even going into 2026, I had goals that I wrote down, and I'm a big believer, and this is probably controversial, and people have different opinions, but I like having goals that are realistic to achieve. I know people will say aim higher, so even if you don't hit that high goal, then you'll still have made massive grounds. I personally have just done better with achievable goals. So I'll try to set goals that I 100% think are actually achievable in my mind, not some, oh, I'm going to open up 100 stores, and even if I get to 40, that's still going to be great. I function better when I can actually achieve that goal. So I kind of have those big yearly goals, and then I have weekly goals that are are kind of sub goals of getting me closer to that yearly goal. And I think that breaking it out into weeks has been very, very helpful for me. I think doing it each day is too much. I mean, I think if you have to tell yourself what you need to get done each day and goal set each day, that's honestly kind of an issue. I think weeks is the best way to break it out because you can make a lot of progress in a week. You can get a lot done, and you can usually achieve what you set out to do. And you keep compounding on doing those things each week for the whole year. You're going to make some pretty significant progress before you know it.
Yeah, I think I find it very interesting how everyone has their own unique way of setting their own goals. Like you mentioned, you set realistic goals rather than extremely ambitious goals is something I also relate with as well. And yes, I do definitely agree with breaking that big goal down into smaller chunks. So now that we've covered your successes, I want to go over a bit of the uncomfortable mistakes that you've made along the journey. So, was there any embarrassing moment for you or an embarrassing mistake that you made that almost ruined the company?
Well, I mean, I'm not particularly sure how embarrassing these would be, but I think that there were a couple times where I partnered with the wrong people, and I think that
Oh,
now
okay.
going through what I have been, uh, I mean, this could go for any entrepreneur, and a lot of people like to have partners. I think having good partners, valuable partners, is fantastic, and it will probably help you get to further places faster. But the wrong people will absolutely they will destroy the best companies, the best ideas. So I think that I made some pretty bonehead mistakes with partners that present day me would not have made. And I think that just with any partnership, it always needs to come with like equitable contributions from both sides. You shouldn't just be giving your friend 25% of the business because he thinks it's a good idea and he wants to work on it. Because eventually you're going to get to a point where there's disagreements and there's going to be resentment and someone's going to feel like they don't need the other person. So I have definitely partnered with some bad partners that have ultimately almost ruined the entire company, ruined iSMASH. So that is probably one. And then I think just early on in my franchise journey, I I signed some people that I definitely should not have signed because at the end of the day, you could have the best franchise model in the world where it's the most efficient and the most profitable and the most everything, but you don't get the right operator in that seat, then they're just not going to succeed. I mean, you look at it with any franchise, McDonald's, these guys that are behemoths and huge, they have failures in their system. They have people not doing well because they're not the right operators. I think of it like a workout plan. We're going to give you this plan to get in really good shape, and all you got to do is just follow the plan. And there's some people that are not going to follow the plan and say, we think that we know
Yeah.
better. This is stupid. I don't need to follow this plan. I'm going to make up my own plan. And those are the people that don't succeed. So I think that those two, which is partnering with the wrong people and signing some of the wrong franchisees, definitely some of the biggest mistakes that have had the largest impact on the company, and quite frankly, have almost ended the company at times.
Mm. I think it's important to mention that because obviously you learned that the hard way. And another question I want to ask you about when it comes to mistakes is, was there ever a point in time where iSmash almost completely broke or you felt like quitting?
Yeah, I mean, I've told this on many other shows, but I think that the most notable one was it was literally a year after we opened. It was summer in Rochester, which in New
Okay.
York, summertime is the weather is very nice almost the entire time throughout the rest of the year. It's rainy, it's windy, it's snowy, it's cold. So people are really not doing things inside during the summertime. That's when all the concerts, all the festivals are. So the first year in business, my my sales declined drastically once the weather got nice and we were just losing a ton of money. And I was literally right on the verge of bankruptcy. I think I have $1,000 left to my name, and my bills were a significant amount more than that. And that would have been the easiest to walk away, and definitely crossed my mind a lot of times. And I'm just gonna close this up and do something else. It didn't work. It was a fad. Everybody who wanted to come here had already been here. Let's just kick in the towel. And I decided to not do it. I stuck it out and gave it my all, and just said, "Look, if I'm going to go down, I'll at least go down fighting." And I was able to make it happen. So that was probably the most notable in memory, because I mean it was a hair away from just being wiped off the face of the earth and never heard of again. Never heard of again. And that would have been the easiest time too, because there was no other stores, there was no other obligations. I could have just shut it down, and nothing else would have happened.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing all those tough lessons that you definitely just took the hard way to learn. I want to come to an end with this interview by asking you about advice that you can give directly to entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs like me, and possibly even yourself in the past. So, what do you think is a common misunderstanding when it comes to business and, yeah, setting up a successful business?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing that you can do when you're young, that I really leverage, and I see a lot of people that have leveraged, is you need to leverage your time and your ability to take risks. And I know that everyone says that, but it cannot be overstated. Like, I truthfully think that I got to where I am because I just worked very, very hard for a very long time. People do not understand the compounding success that will come as a result of just working really hard for a really long time. Most people, they will work ambitiously and hard for maybe 3 weeks, maybe 2 months, and they'll say, "Man, I don't see any results. This is just not working." I mean, truthfully, I worked incredibly hard for 3 years before I really saw any meaningful profit. And I'm talking 80 to 100 hours a week, every week for 3 years before I saw anything. But now looking back, what else would I have been doing at that time? I would have been hanging out with my friends, playing video games, and probably living with a lot of regret that I could have done something that I didn't do. So I think leveraging your time, and then the second thing is leveraging your ability to take risks. I mean, when you're 24, I mean, what do you have to lose? I mean, you can start over so easily and just bounce right back to doing something else. So like when you get to be 30s, 40s, you have all these other obligations, houses, kids, families. I mean, you can't do that anymore. So I think that those are really the two biggest pieces of advice, is working hard and taking risks.
Interesting. What do you think is a mindset rule or a trick that you've had that's helped you with, the strong work ethic to work 80 to 100 hours, take all those risks? What made the biggest difference for you mentally?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just a never give up mindset. I mean, you literally cannot lose unless you give up. So I think if you just go in with the mindset of I'm just going to do whatever it takes, and I'm never going to quit, then you just won't fail. I mean, people always say, well, what if I run out of money? What if I get sued? What if my business partner leaves? It's like there is always a way out of everything. You're just making excuses as to why you can't continue. I mean, I could have thrown in the towel on this thing 10 or 15 times by now, and I had really good reasons to throw in the towel. And I just didn't, because when you just get to the mindset of you are just not going to take no for an answer, you are just going to go to the ends of the earth to do whatever it is you're set out to do. There's nothing that's going to stop you when you get to that mindset. Like, obviously, if you say to yourself, well, I want to make $100 billion in 24 hours, I'm not going to stop till I do that. Like, you're just lying to yourself. Like, you need to have something that you know is realistically achievable. Like, okay, I am going to get you $100,000 in sales in a month, and I'm just not going to stop until that happens. And I don't care if it takes me 1 year. I don't care if it takes me 6 years. I'm going to get to $100,000 a month in sales. You're going to do it. Eventually, you're going to keep trying and you're going to make it happen. And you're going to get to $100,000 a month in sales. And I'm sure that you will. So I think that just having that mindset in everything that you do, I mean, you will just become unstoppable and relentless. If you just say to yourself, we are never going to give up, then you just cannot be denied. And I think that's always been the biggest mindset shift is just perseverance.
I love that. That's an amazing way to put it. So, on the topic of mindset and work ethic, me being a performance coach helping entrepreneurs with their productivity, I want to know from you, what is a productivity rule that's made a big difference for you that you've created after all the experience?
Yeah, so my advice might be a little bit skewed and different from like a solo entrepreneur or somebody that has a few people in their company because I at this point I'm a CEO. I have a team that I can delegate a lot of stuff to. So again, my advice, might be a little bit different, but I do feel like I have sort of mastered efficiency and I think that it's really just about using whatever tools that you have at your disposal to the fullest to your advantage. And for me, those tools a lot of the time are other people. If it's not something that I absolutely need to be doing, I am delegating that task. If it's something that does not require my expertise and know-how and careful consideration and planning, it is being delegated to somebody else because there is no way that I would be able to function unless I did that. And now for other people listening, they might say to themselves, well, like I don't have a team, it's just me. Well, I'm sure that there are tools out there to make this more efficient for you. I mean, in the age of AI right now, I mean, there are so many things that those LLMs can just do for you. That is a tool at your disposal. Every single person has access to ChatGPT. Like at the end of the
Exactly.
day, we need to look at what are the tools that you have available. Do you have any mentors? Do you have any advisors? Do you have any people that will work for you? Maybe take a small amount of equity. What tools, what resources do you have, and use those to their fullest potential? Because you need to make sure that you are buying back as much of your time as possible whenever possible, and also just delegating things to people that are just better than them that are better at the thing that you're trying to accomplish. And I'm trying to keep it more broad because I know there's a lot of people that don't have access to the resources that I have, but it's more of just the mindset of using the resources that you have available, whatever those may be. Everybody has resources. Use those resources to your fullest advantage. And think about what those resources are. Write them down. What do I have right now that I could use to my advantage that I'm not? And take a hard look at that.
And a large thing holding people back is simply the belief that thinking other people or automations can't do the work as good as I do. But a lot of the time, that is a limiting belief and prevents you from operating at your maximum capacity.
Yeah, I mean, you are never going to get to a point where you are a large company if you cannot let go of a lot of the big obligations of your company. Like I know for me, it was letting go of my original location, having somebody else run that without me being there, without me having input. That was very hard to get myself to a point where I was comfortable with that. But eventually, it was just a necessity. I didn't have a choice. I couldn't oversee every single little thing that happened at the store because I wouldn't be able to scale. And now, obviously, I'm a lot different. I let people handle things completely on their own with little input from me.
Hmm. Stephen, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time. Before we wrap up, though, I do want to leave the closing words to you. So, if you could go back to 2018 and you could speak to that version of Stephen who was just starting out, what would you say to him? Speak as if you're talking to
Mhm.
him and, yeah, give advice to me and the people listening.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest thing that I would say is that you can do it. And I mean, I think just telling myself that if you put your mind to something, you can achieve it. Like anything that you put your mind to, I think that you can realistically obtain. And I think that, that's something that people have a hard time understanding is, man, there's no way that I can do that. And that's because you're putting a limitation on yourself. I think I would undoubtedly tell myself over and over again that you can do this and that it's not unrealistic and that any limits that you think that you have are self-imposed. There are no limits on what you can do. And I think that I would try to instill that upon myself, my younger self, because there was constant self-doubt that I couldn't do this, that I wasn't cut out for this, that I didn't have the experience. And I made every excuse in the book of why I couldn't do it. And I think that just trying to get that across to myself that you can do it is the number one thing that I would try to say to my former self.
Hell yeah. Amazing. This has been an amazing use of my hour. You've definitely provided a lot of insights for both me and the viewer. Is there anything, though, that you want to touch on before we wrap this up?
I mean, I guess just, maybe like a little bit of like like a not like a personal plug or a business plug, but I do know a lot of people who search for my name, search for iSmash, watch these videos. I'm sure that somebody listening to this right now is probably somebody who's looking to buy into an
Yeah,
iSmash franchise. So I guess parting words would probably have to be on that front to maybe some of those people, which is
for sure.
a lot of the times franchise ownership is right on the cusp of people wanting to become first time entrepreneurs, and I think that it is absolutely one of the best decisions that you can make for yourself. And a lot of the times you will regret not taking that risk because we all have one opportunity to make stuff happen, and you don't ever want to get to a point where you can't become an entrepreneur anymore. You're too old or whatever it is. It is undoubtedly the best thing that I've ever done, and I'm sure that other people who have gotten into entrepreneurship would also say the same thing. So I guess parting words for not only those people looking to buy into an iSmash franchise, but people that are just watching this for entrepreneurship. It is absolutely revolutionized my life, and I think that it can do the same for you. So those are my parting words, and I appreciate you having me on here. I think these were some great discussion topics and questions, and I look forward to people seeing this because I know that they will.